Sunday Live is here with the Average Joe Sports Show. That is Gary Sharp, Bill Doleman, Elijah Herbel, Chris Schmidt. Hope you do it all right as we get rolling on a super regional final. I should say is a regional final Sunday for Husker Softball. We'll talk some Big Red Baseball, also dive into a few football topics. Fellas, how we doing? What's a good word?
I'm just glad to see that you survived graduation party palooza last night. It was quite the festivity in South Lincoln. Thank you for the invite. It was impressive to watch you work the room.
Thank you. Yeah, it was good. And despite the narrative out there, I was making drinks and pouring drinks, not consuming drinks. But I know that there would have been a few folks that would have lost a wager on that.
And I know graduation parties are a celebration of the graduate, but they're also a celebration that Schmidt made it 18 years without screwing up, killing, maiming, accidentally harming his son in any way. So congratulations, Schmidt, 18 years. You made it. He's out of the house now. No longer your problem.
Well, he'll always be my problem, and I'll always be his problem. So it's okay. But yeah, no, I mean, Child Protective has never been called to the Schmidt house. Which, you know, knowing who his mama is, I mean, that's a major feat. So
I would agree.
But it was really bittersweet. It's, you know, as we're setting up, we got and I had to pull the old bat phone out and contact Elijah as he is birdieing a par 4. And he's like, dude, what do you want? And I'm like, technical help. But thankfully, I got the tri-screen iPad configuration set up for the tribute videos for all 3 kids that were celebrating. Carson, his buddy Landon, and his buddy Jace. We went in with 2 other families, and the setup we went to. Quick thumbs up to Fire Spring, and we were able to get in there and host it, and they're set up in there. I mean, it's got a freaking slide from the second floor down to the first floor. There's foosball, there's ping pong, there's a patio set up where Mr. Doleman was camped out with some friends who came in, which was great. And, you know, pretty much a kitchen set up. And while all of the sandwiches were taken down and most of the macaroni and potato salad, we did make it home with about 3 bottles of Tito's, a lot of seltzers, and a few Corona. So,
depending on how my Nuggets play today, I might need to borrow one of those bottles of Tito's. We'll see.
Okay. We'll bring you some bottle service.
The highlight of the night was I finally made it inside. I'd been outside all night, and I see the tables with the displays of the 3 graduates, all varying pictures and notes of their accomplishments over the years. The Schmidt table had a framed 2 admonishments from school administrators not happy with Carson sharing cereal with kids in the lunchroom, and admonished once and then again twice that he was not getting the message, and they expected the parents to figure out how to rectify the situation. I thought that was a pretty funny thing to post. So.
Yeah, his days at Scott Middle School, he probably should have been banned from the lunchroom because he was a snot. But he would bring cereal. I mean, the Schmidt household looks like Seinfeld's kitchen with all the cereal options. And he would bring cereal and share with his buddies, not because he's caring and sharing, but because he's a little prick. And he was, just trying to cause commotion, I think, after being told no. So the sweet little lunch lady reached out to Mama Bunny and said, hey, he needs to knock it off. And then they went to Dad. And I just had a quick conversation. Are you making any money off this? Are you charging? And he's like, well, no. I was like, well, then shut it down.
But, I thought he was passing out gummies or something. It was cereal.
Yeah. No.
That's awesome.
We had to have the talk after the wisdom teeth surgery. We got to pour out everything. We can't make any economic decisions to impact your future. But no, it was good. Got to see a lot of family that came in. Appreciate everybody that showed up. It was awesome, man. It was good. And a week from, well, a little less than a week, Saturday morning is the big walk across the stage at PBA. So away we go.
And we'll be doing the Average Joe Sports Show from there, I assume.
Well, you know what? If I can sneak into Media Row, where you usually sit for basketball, I can set up. I don't know that will be smiled upon or frowned upon. I know which way I think they'll lean. All right, you guys go sit over there. I'm going to do play-by-play of 600 students.
During the commencement speech, you can also just hear Schmidt in the corner of the room doing a radio show. Pretty good.
Yeah, well, I may be forced to just check in on Saturday morning, but we'll see. Guys, little temperature check on Husker softball to get going. They are set to advance on with a win today, 2:00, and they need a little help from Ohio State today to host. Other than that, it looks like a rematch with old Rocky Top.
Well, they got a gift from Southeastern Louisiana, beating LSU twice. You know what? And even if LSU doesn't lose, I don't know, man. Nebraska's playing really well. You know, I don't think it would have mattered. And I thought Nebraska would make it to the Super Regional anyhow. They're so well built. And then when Jordy is on a whole nother level than she has been in the regular season in the Big Ten tournament, I mean, how are you going to stop Nebraska? I would love to see Nebraska, Tennessee, and Knoxville next weekend. And it would take Ohio State beating Tennessee twice to have Nebraska and Tennessee play to go to Oklahoma City. You don't think that'd be a little bit juicy? The storyline of Jordy Bahl making it back to Oklahoma City in a different uniform after winning national championships there. Who wouldn't sign up for that?
Do you think there's a little bit of regret in the Oklahoma softball camp for not letting Jordy Bahl hit? I mean, she had her occasion. I think it was 40-something plate appearances at Oklahoma, but now this year she's at like 190 plus. She is batting almost 500, slugging almost 600. Oh, on top of that, 22 home runs, including 3 in the regional so far. I think there's a tiny little bit of regret. And her pitching numbers aren't what they were at Oklahoma. That's A, because she's coming off the ACL. B, it's a different team. But C, I mean, she's also putting in work at the plate, game in, game out. And there is unquestionably, in my eyes, a extremely strong argument, probably stronger than anyone else in the country, that Jordy Bahl should be your national player of the year. With what she has done, I mean, she is Midwestern Shohei Ohtani on the softball diamond. That's what she's doing. And realistically, her numbers are better than anything Shohei's ever put together. Softball is a slightly different sport, but her numbers are unreal. And there's no one in the country that is more impactful to their team than Jordy Bahl.
Does she have 3 bobblehead giveaways, though? Like they've done with the Dodgers.
Hey, I think Hart won over hitting in her return to Nebraska. They could have let her have done whatever she wanted to do. They had enough in their lineup. Look, I am not chapter and verse knowledgeable about Oklahoma softball. I tune in at the College World Series, and I think it's a great show. It's a great showcase for women's sports, and they've done a phenomenal job. So I do enjoy watching it. And so on my limited knowledge of Oklahoma, I think that when she made the decision to come to Nebraska or transfer to Nebraska, it was to come home. They could have let her hit all she wanted and done everything. They had power in the lineup anyway. They didn't need her to hit, obviously. But I think Hart won out over hitting and anything else. And I think anything that she has done at Nebraska surpasses anything she did at Oklahoma. She's raised this sport and this, not just the team, but the sport of volley or softball in Nebraska to a level that it hasn't been. The fans have responded. This will have carryover to next year, obviously, because she'll be back, but long after. So I said it the other day, just retire 98 now and just call it good. She's been everything that I think that they would hope that she would have been and more.
Well, let's also give credit here because and like you said, Bill, I have no idea. Oklahoma's lineup was stacked. And so they probably probably finding her limited at bats. It was part of her deal to come back to Nebraska that she would hit as well. And I don't think if you're Nebraska, you go, I don't know about that. You're like, yeah, when you're not pitching, you can hit, or vice versa, whatever. You can do whatever you want. But let's also give credit to her fiance. Trey Fromm is on the baseball team from Elkhorn. So that's another reason why she came back home. Because you remember, this whole story is a really, really good story. And the one thing about Jordy is an individual. And Jordy is not just somebody that's wearing 98 and has changed the trajectory of Nebraska softball. You remember, she is somebody that is very vocal about her beliefs. And, she's got a voice, and she knows her place, and she has never shied away from it. And I think that's why people gravitate towards her, because she's not just 98. She is Jordy Bahl that has a belief system, that grew up in Nebraska. But another part of what she's done to change the trajectory of Nebraska softball, and of course her fiance used to be on the baseball team, Trey Fromm, who is from Elkhorn, is has she elevated herself? And I'm going to go there, so just prepare yourself, boys. Is she the best transfer ever in Nebraska athletic history, surpassing Scott Frost? Not from a junior college, but from a fellow Division I school. Because I say Frost because he won a national title in football.
Man, after the last week, I thought we wouldn't be talking Scott Frost today.
I know.
It's a reference point.
That's why I read the PSA before I mentioned that.
Yeah.
And I mean, Scott Frost is probably, I think, won a national championship transferring back from Stanford. You can't take that away from him.
I think, and right now, from an accomplishment standpoint, what Jordy has done, I mean, it's apples, oranges, but who are the other candidates to even talk about? And just quick return on this. I think of the importance of Turan Petaway to kind of lead that NCAA break the ice team in 2014, but it's a tournament versus being on the verge of greatness for Nebraska softball again to get to the Women's College World Series. So the tournament run is nice. Getting to the tournament was sweet with no sit Sunday, but it's not. This is a different stratosphere, what Jordy and Nebraska softball are. So I don't think who else. I mean, because most of the folks that have transferred in, nice careers with plenty of respect, nice parts in a cog, but not a ringleader, not a ringleader that is the difference maker and a difference maker in an entire sport.
Better than Tony Farmer?
Well, but where did old T Farmer come from?
I will see you at Tony Farmer and raise you a Tom Best.
Well played.
Hey, Tony Farmer, actually, on a side note, Tony Farmer's career at Nebraska probably does not get as much credit as it deserves. I mean, he was a monster transfer. It helps to be playing in the Emeritus Classic, so you get a vibe of what the Devaney Center is, and you're like, yeah, you know what, Lincoln looks good to me. Tony was a dude in his brief time at Nebraska. He was, and I think and Bill, you might know this because this is back in our day. I think he's still an actor. He went into acting
I don't know.
After he got done with his pro basketball career.
I don't know that. That's funny.
Tony Farmer, one of my favorites.
He was a funny dude. San Jose State's loss was Nebraska's gain. Yeah. And this is the first time in probably 25 years that anybody's talked about Tony Farmer's career at Nebraska, but that's what we do on the show.
I mean, look at the transfers. You had Tom Wald from Mankato State, Jose Ramos from a junior college in Miami.
Was Ramos at Florida?
I thought he was at Miami. And he had the full-length mink Philadelphia 76er jacket that he wore around campus and other places in Lincoln.
I've done some research. It looks like Tony Farmer has not acted in anything since 2009.
Okay.
Well, he had a good run.
Well, they went on strike in Hollywood, and Tony just said, fuck it.
Living on residuals.
Back to this original conversation though with Jordy, I would say let's let her career play out first. She's got a great argument. I mean, in terms of her career, she could go down as one of the greats in college softball history, depending on how this year finishes out and how next year goes. Because let's not forget, she's got another year of eligibility after this. So a lot more still to come in her Husker career. I want to let it play out first. Scott Frost delivered Nebraska football fans a national title. Jordy Bahl, it's an uphill climb to go do that this year. Is it possible? Yes, you have the best player in the country on your roster. So let's let it play out a little bit. She's got a strong argument, but I want to see what else happens in her career. Like the season she's put together this year is probably the best season in Husker softball history, and there's been some good ones. But what she's done in the circle, what she's done at the plate, spectacular. She's got another year left. Let's let it play out before I'm willing to say, oh, best transfer in Husker history, because there's a lot more gemstones she could add to her crown as a Husker softball player.
But hey, they're going to alter this. Now, granted, it's a smaller scale, the stadium for her. They're going to have more seats that come in right away next year, not just going to bring them in for the last series of the season. There will be more people expected at those games at the beginning of 2026 because of it. And another person to throw in too, and we can continue the issue the best ever. Rhonda Revelle maintaining the relationship, understanding that when she made the decision to go to Oklahoma after the years that she'd been in camps and said, good for you, go be great. And the door will always be open if you want to come back, to maintain that relationship and be that classy. Rhonda doesn't get enough credit for the way she's handled the whole thing and the run her program without her, and welcomed her back to let her do whatever it is that, she's wanted to do while she's been here. So good on Rhonda for that.
Well, and that's a great point, because, you have, again, I think it's incredible, the Papillion La Vista softball program, to have two of the greatest softball players in the state of Nebraska ever are from the same program, about 20 years apart. Because if you go back and you look at Peaches James, I mean, she was dominating, and what Jordy is doing now. But if you remember back to the time when Jordy decommitted from Nebraska, I didn't think Rhonda would survive, because remember, she got suspended, and Bill Moose stepped in, and Bill Moose, not being a lawyer, instead of going, okay, we don't want lawsuits involved, well, let's just settle this, let's move on to a new coach. Bill Moose went to bat for Rhonda. They said, we're going to figure this out, and we're going to get to the bottom of this. And Nebraska hung with Rhonda, because it wasn't like they are on the they're winning 50 games, they're going to Oklahoma City. They were scuttling a little bit, and they stuck with Rhonda. They had some, okay, she's a good person, she means well, she's got a good program, she runs the right way, we're going to stick with her. And she's probably going to ride out the next 2 years. I wouldn't be surprised after next year if Rhonda retires, which nobody would fault her. Hell, she's been the softball coach for nearly 30 years, and she's had an incredible amount of success where she's taken that program from when Ron Woolworth had the program and they were playing over behind Mabel Lee, where they used to, where their softball complex was.
Called games there.
Yeah. So I think it's kind of, the whole story. It's the whole circle of Rhonda at the end of her career, and Jordy at the end of her career, and how they kind of met in the middle. And all of a sudden, this team grew up, and it's not just 98 and Rhonda. They got a really, really good team. Mm-hmm. So I think another thing, don't you guys think that because of the power of Jordy Bahl, that let's say Nebraska and Tennessee are playing next week, and I don't know off the top of my head the other really, really marquee matchups that would be in the Super, but I got to imagine Nebraska Tennessee is going to get some love on ESPN.
That's what you're hoping for. And one thing that was pretty cool about this Nebraska softball squad is not only what they did in conference, but what they did with their quad ones. I mean, they were a little below 500, but that's okay. They had some pretty impressive wins. And fellas, they're going to go into this not only playing great ball, but confident that you've already taken down Rocky Top. Now, a little different animal doing it in Knoxville, but nonetheless, Nebraska's got a regular season win against Tennessee this year, and that always helps things when it comes to just what your prospects are for moving forward. And I'm just excited for what do we turn to this spring and into summer from a buzz and what's going to unite Nebraska fans. And you're going to see a whole bunch of folks that already on the bandwagon, but there's going to be a bigger bandwagon that needs to be called for with what softball's done. And having a chance, I know Sharpie and Bill and Elijah, you've covered postseason softball, baseball as well with Husker Vision, but seeing the juice and the crowds once you get to Oklahoma City is really cool. It's awesome, and it's nice for Nebraska to have that opportunity. Let's see if they can make it happen, take advantage of it, take care of business today, and then move forward.
Yeah, I was going to say, let's not fast forward past today because Southeastern Louisiana has taken down the 1 seed LSU twice. Nebraska run ruled them yesterday. They got a great performance. They also are going to be short on pitching with what they had to do yesterday. Nebraska, I think, can go run Jordy Bahl out there again. She's only pitched 6 total innings in the regional so far. So she's still got, I mean, if you know about softball, it's not as strenuous on your elbow and on your shoulder. It's a lot more on the lower half. So I think Jordy should be good to go today and give him a couple innings. And if she's in the circle, I like their chances. But let's not gloss over the fact that Southeastern Louisiana has taken down LSU twice. They're a good program. You kind of kicked the hell out of them yesterday. You hope you can do it again today, but it's not a walk in the park. You got to go win that before you advance to a super regional.
And correct me if I'm wrong, Gary, here. Doesn't Nebraska owe Southeastern Louisiana revenge for stealing Carol Boudreaux away from Danny Lee back in the 1990s?
Help me out. I have a good Rolodex of references, but I need that explanation.
We're talking Tony Farmer and Tom Best. I mean, let's just go deep, right?
Who's Boudreaux?
He was like some coveted basketball player. I don't remember where he was playing.
No,
Wasn't there something like they were going to be at his door at 7:00 in the morning to get his signature on a letter of intent, and he had already signed it like at 6:30. I don't remember. It was just some.
Like Danny lost a player to that school, and he didn't even know where the school was.
I'm going to be honest, even though Nebraska's been playing Southeastern Louisiana in this regional, I don't know where the school is either.
It's the southeastern part of the state. There you go.
Where you need a translator.
Does anyone want to throw in any guesses? I can Google this real quick. What city?
Where is Southeastern Louisiana? Where
next, let's go Lake Charles.
No.
Okay.
Damn. I thought they would be a partner with McNeese State.
While Elijah's looking that up, we are going to do our starting 5.
I have it. If anyone in the stream wants to guess either, they can. They're going to Google it, though, unfortunately.
It's just outside of Ruston.
Huh. I'm impressed with your knowledge of towns in Louisiana.
Not very far from Shreveport.
That's kind of true. It's Hammond, Louisiana. North of New Orleans, across that big old lake right there. Kind of.
Oh, maybe you pass it if you don't fly into Hattiesburg. If you fly into New Orleans and you go across Lake Pontchartrain, the long bridge on 10, and you head north then to go to Hattiesburg from New Orleans, maybe you go by where Southeast Louisiana is located.
Jeez, I should know that. I'd make that drive a lot.
It's up 55 the other way out of New Orleans.
Okay. All right.
Wow. All right. Shout outs here on the Average Joe Sports Show.
You guys know how to get to Fremont?
I do. Go find a lost golf ball. Okay, starting 5 shout outs with the Average Joe Sports Show. Like and subscribe on YouTube. We appreciate you greatly for checking us out 7 days a week. Justin is in. Remember to take your vitamins. Someday you have the possibility to grow up and be like Jordy Bahl. Corn Raider is in. Talking CWS for the women. Mike is in from Cali. God love you, Mike. Early morning for you. Nolan says our state, amazing female athletes. Absolutely, Nolan. John is in. Waiting for the boys to go get his dog to walk in. Pups are outside screaming. Brian Snitley, part of the Boulder Peace Treaty. Only disappointment today is the best player in softball is relegated to ESPN+. Stephen was wondering if we were late today. I think we were right on time. You have Coach Brandon says hello. The other Dave is in. Michael checking in from North Carolina. Good to have you, dude. You have Jay Bigelow. Is this the official, or is it a tribute handle for Jay Bigelow?
I think it's a tribute, but I'm not sure. I didn't
Well,
actually think with this. I could.
Biggs, good to have you. If it is you, if it's not, I hear you.
Tribute band.
Game Dog is here.
He'll be at the Bourbon Theater playing all the hits.
Oh, wow. David is in. Good to have David checking in. And more of your comments. Game Dog says Mike Rozier was technically a transfer.
Coffeeville.
I was talking Division One.
Yeah, we said no community college.
Yeah. No CC. How about Husker Baseball? Do you like the path? Nebraska is headed to Omaha, took care of business yesterday. It's Sparty, the 12 seed, and then you have Oregon. And I know it was a tight race between Iowa, UCLA, Oregon, and Oregon's playing some good ball. UCLA got slapped a little bit by Northwestern. And then, of course, Iowa's a shell of what they were.
Look, the fact that they're in it, I mean, Nebraska can't complain or wonder what might have been. I mean, a week ago, are they going to make it? That was the question, right? And then there was, there could be a 5 if something fell right. And you're like, no way. But the fact that they got in and they got in at the 8, and they've got a team in Michigan State that, is snuck in as well. They're the 12. And so you're a middle of the road team in the Big Ten, won 5 straight series. The cliche, they're playing their best baseball of the season right now. But being in the bracket with Oregon, whatever the bracket is, again, it looks like a flock of seagulls when I take a look at that thing, right? Or
it's brutal.
It's a youth baseball tournament where everybody's guaranteed games.
It's crazy. And the pool doesn't make sense to me either.
Nope.
Someone might need to explain this to me because there's 3 teams in a pool. Nebraska's got Michigan State and Oregon. Let's say Nebraska beats Michigan State beats Oregon, and then Oregon beats Nebraska. Who wins the pool?
Oregon.
Just because they're the highest seed?
They're the highest seed. Oh, It's ridiculous. I looked at it last week. I said it on my show. We tried to walk through it. It is absolutely ridiculous that is one of the tiebreakers. Head to head is, but you're going to have 1-1 teams, but it's the highest seed. So there could be there'll be some meaningless games that'll be played.
Yeah.
Like
and Nebraska plays for 2 days off.
Yep.
Well,
you
play
what Tuesday
means.
And then you don't play again until Friday. You hope that Friday 6 p.m. game against Oregon means something huge.
Yeah.
But what if Oregon beats Michigan State, and then Nebraska beats Oregon. Nebraska's maybe Michigan State beats Nebraska, Oregon beats Michigan State, Nebraska beats Oregon. There you go. Oregon's going. It's confusing. I wish they would have done, because you saw like the SEC has changed this, a single elimination. Invite 16 of the 17 teams and go single elimination.
Okay. Yeah. One and done. And you get 16 fan bases. And I don't know how well the Big Ten baseball contingent travels, but the good news, all right, from a city and economic standpoint, is Omaha gets to host. You get folks to descend on Omaha. It's hotels, it's restaurants, it's all that good stuff. And
it's Nebraska at night. You have a chance. People can go to work and go to the game.
Yeah.
And at night you'll have a little more atmosphere.
The Big Ten got a gift by, for one, Nebraska making it, but Nebraska's in the 6 o'clock games. But let's be honest, when Nebraska's not playing, you're going to be able to have your own section and get a lot of foul balls. I mean, it's just the way it's been up here, and it was amazing. We have here in Omaha, we have kidded about this tournament because it shows up, and if Nebraska is not playing, it gets very little local coverage. But when Nebraska is playing, of course, it's a big deal. And the Big Ten is hoping, oh my God, can we get Nebraska on a Saturday and a Sunday? We're going to have 13 to 18,000 people. They've never really advertised it here. Like, you don't see signs up unless you drive by the ballpark every day and you live in downtown or work in downtown. But I did notice the other night on I-80 about 84th and I-80, there's a billboard, and there actually was an advertisement that the Big Ten baseball tournament's in town.
Wow.
So Nebraska saved them. They get 2 night games, but I don't understand. And I, we know how the Big Ten treats baseball. Why not run differential? And Elijah, you've spent a lot of time in those kind of tournaments. Why would you go highest seed compared to run differential?
The one argument I can make in this is you've seen teams get down in a ball game and they start in a tournament setting. They're going to throw out an arm. Hey, we're down by 10 in the 7th inning. We're not coming back here. Let's throw an arm that we're not going to throw the rest of the tournament and save it, and it gets out of hand. Compare that to the fact that if you do go highest seed, you make the regular season mean just a little bit of something, a little bit. And whenever the tournament is what determines your automatic qualifier for the NCAA tournament, it's not the regular season crown. It's the tournament crown that determines who's going to go. I understand saying instead of having a one-off game determine who is going to be our automatic qualifier, let's have the regular season mean a little something in the tournament. I can understand that. I don't necessarily agree with it, but that's kind of the line of thinking that I'd assume this is coming from.
I mean, at the end of the day, Nebraska has to go 4-0.
Yeah.
To get to the NCAA tournament.
Yep.
But that game on Friday night could be for absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
Right? If Nebraska loses to Michigan State and Oregon beats Michigan State, is it possible that game doesn't mean anything on Friday? Or does it still mean something?
I'm confused by the whole thing.
Okay, so Michigan State beats Nebraska. So if Michigan State beats Nebraska and Oregon beats Michigan State, and then Nebraska beats Oregon, Oregon still goes.
Yeah.
Right.
Because Oregon be the highest seed and you have 3 1-1 teams.
Yeah. So
so for Nebraska, Tuesday night is a must win.
Right.
I mean, you have to win that game no matter what, because then it's like, okay, we got a couple of days. We have no path, possibly. Yeah, I don't know. It's going to be really confusing, and I don't know. I think they tried to – I watched a little bit of the Iowa-Oregon game series this weekend. They tried to explain it, and even like Jeff Lisey was like trying to explain it, and it was confusing. So I can't imagine, like the fans are going to be ticked off when they start to dig into this format, trying to figure out a path for their favorite team to, get to Sunday.
Legends and Leaders was more understandable.
So Timmerman will probably pitch Tuesday night, would you guys imagine?
Yeah, and then you probably throw Horn out there against Oregon.
Which would give him basically a week off. So you'd be on somewhat regular rest. I mean, for a team like Nebraska, it actually, I think, sets up pretty well the way the tournament is compared to the past where it was double elimination.
And now it doesn't come down to a battle of attrition with your arms. And that's what the old tournament would, especially if you lost a game and you go down to the loser's bracket. Now it's just a battle of attrition. Who's got the most arms by the end of the tournament? That's who tends to win. It's not that anymore. It's an interesting setup. Can't say I like it, but it is not what it used to be where it's, hey, by the time you're playing your 4th game, it's just a battle of, all right, who's got the bullpen arms that you can turn to in a bullpen game while you try to get your ace back ready for a potential 5th game. It's not that anymore. It is very much a case of, 4 games is what you got to win to go out and do it. Like that's 3 arms plus a midweek guy. So you're going to be rolling with your normal starters. It's not what it used to be. I'll be curious to see how it turns out. The one thing I can say, the pod system, I think sucks a little bit. That's the big thing. I like the idea of, hey, 4 games, win them all. You're going off to NCAA tournament. That I can get behind. Maybe would 4-team pods make a little more sense so there's less ties? The pod system I don't think is a good idea for baseball. That's my sticking point here. But I guess if you want to be in an advantaged place in the pod system moving forward, you got to go take care of business in the regular season.
It seems like something you would do in the park with your softball teams, and you start playing at 9:00 and you're all in this pod. You play 3 or 4 teams, you advance, you see who's still sober by 5, and then you play in the evening and afterwards you get done at 9:30 and everybody heads to the Brunswick or heads out to Havelock.
Yeah. No.
Then it might work. And people by then got enough in them that it all makes sense.
Isn't this didn't they take the format from the ACC?
Something like that.
I think so.
Yeah, I don't think the Big Ten on their own did not come up with this. Or maybe they did.
Kid's not come up with anything on their own for baseball.
I came up with legends and leaders.
Yeah, that lasted. It's the Average Joe Sports Show Sunday Live. Like and subscribe to YouTube. Mike, you are right on, cowboy. Your head exploded 5 minutes ago. Spotify, iTunes for the podcast, and also on YouTube and Twitter, AJ Sports Radio, to watch us live. So I've been thinking a lot with this college football playoff situation where you're arm wrestling a little bit with what it becomes, right? Do you expand to 16? Do you have your automatic qualifiers? You had the ACC and the Big 12 screaming a bit about only 2 automatic qualifiers compared to the Big 10 and the SEC getting in their 4. I want to zoom out for a little bit and get your guys' take on who's next. Like who can really battle for maybe that at large, because there are going to be some years where you have arguments for, all right, the team that just got left off the ledger from the SEC and also from the Big 10, those that just missed the cut, so to speak. And you guys got a couple of programs in mind from the SEC and the Big 10 that, all right, they're not going to quite get into that club of top 4. And listen, when you expand it out to these play-ins, it'll move to top 6. But in a league of 18 teams with the Big 10, I mean, you're going to have a really presumably deep and pretty talented conference once you look at that top 8 or top 9. At least that's how I viewed the SEC and the Big 10 last season, where you had some teams that were good that were left out, and they weren't happy about it. Couple 3 programs. Who do you believe? Like, who do you believe can consistently hover around that discussion point? Are you in on Indiana, or do you believe, okay, they're a one-hit wonder? Pretty interesting article from ESPN with Signetti saying, dude, we can't be a one-hit wonder. We've got to sustain this. Illinois feeling great after their 10 wins and the number of starters they have back. They've got a window here. And I think we all feel that Nebraska's window is here about 3 years to get back in the staying power conversation, where it's not, all right, you finally had a nice season and then you're back to 500. I don't think that's the plan for anybody down there at 10th and Vine. So, and then there's the SEC, the USC discussion point with their talent, with their investment. You know, what are you doing out there in La La Land? Conversely, you look at the SEC, you have LSU that is trying to get things figured out. You have Ole Miss that's been right on the verge, and you've got, you know, is Bama resetting and ready to reload, or are they about ready to take a fall? Yeah, and those are things that I'm interested in here, because college football continues to be super fascinating with what this postseason becomes.
I would throw my hat toward Illinois. USC, I think, should be in that. You talk about 4. USC should be there. The money that they have, the talent pool out there, they just not well organized. But
we've been saying that about USC since 2006.
I totally agree with that. And you know, this is a make or break type year for Lincoln Riley, and who knows how long his loyalties are going to last there. You know, he may jump ship and get out and take whatever money. Who knows? Yeah. But I think Illinois is on the cusp of being maybe the new Wisconsin, and I'm leaving Nebraska out of this. I'm leaving Nebraska out of this discussion, because I don't know how much they will invest and want to continue to play the game, but if they do, and they stick with Bielema, and they let his identity take root in their program. With, you know, if he was still at Wisconsin, they'd continue to have been a power. Their lines would be unbelievable, but you know, it goes to Arkansas. But I think if as long as Bielema stays there and they make a commitment to it, they'll far surpass anything Indiana is doing. I think Nebraska's probably on that same plane with them, if not more, because Nebraska's willing to invest more, I think, than Illinois is. But if I was to take somebody outside of Nebraska, I think that Illinois, with longevity and continuing with Bielema, they have a chance to have that opportunity to be top 5, top 6 every year and flirt with the playoff.
Well, my question with Illinois is, let's play the hypothetical game here. We know Bielema in the Rust Belt of sorts. That's the harsh term to use. I do apologize to the folks up there, but in the Rust Belt, he is a fantastic coach. He's got good relationships, knows how to evaluate those guys up there. If this year goes the way we think it does for Wisconsin, do they call up old Brett and say, hey, we know it didn't go well, but
I don't think so.
I think he has said that this is my last Big Ten stop. But
do we believe him though? Because I think the guy that's in Iowa City will coach this year to set the all-time Big Ten wins record, and then that'll be it.
Well, let's ask this question: if you're Iowa and you're Wisconsin and you've got a chair to fill, you absolutely make the phone call to him.
Let's look at it from this standpoint. If you're Bielema, Wisconsin or Iowa,
or do you have it from a recruiting standpoint? Do you have it incredible where you're at?
Yeah, that's also a good point. I think he works for an athletic director that it's pretty clear that they're all in on 2 sports in Champaign, men's basketball and football. I mean, they're going to try and raise money, spend money. The only thing is, and I think Bielema is, I think Bielema is a good football coach for the Big Ten. He knows how to win in the Big Ten. Does his passion for the product, can he get people behind it that will come and put their butts in his stadium? Can he create passion for Illinois football? That's the thing that maybe he does as much as he can, and still every game's not sold out. People are not stopping him on the street going, hey, tell me about who you got when Altmaier is gone, who's replacing him. The Iowa situation, if they make the right hire, I mean, does Iowa get back into a conversation like this more consistently? What if they go to Manhattan and get Chris Kleiman, and all of a sudden he's at a place that has really good resources. I mean, he's from Waterloo, or Bielema, or they stay internally and go LeVar Woods.
Well, Pat Fitzgerald.
Let's also say this:
whose son will be on the roster this year.
I don't know if we have to say even next coach at Iowa. Iowa very quietly put up 27 points a game last year. Now their defense helped him out there, but quietly they put up 27 points a game. Their offense was better, and now they bring in the transfer from South Dakota in Gronowski, South Dakota State, I should say. They like what they have at quarterback. Could Iowa be that sleeper team to go make a run at the Big Ten this year? Because we know their defense is always going to be buttoned up. We know LeVar Woods is going to have that special teams unit in tip-top shape every single week. And their offense, I mean, they got a quarterback. They got to replace Caleb Johnson. That's going to be a huge mark, but they're a bit of a running back factory just because what they do on their lines of scrimmage. Iowa could quietly, if Gronowski comes in and plays up to the level he was playing at South Dakota State, they could quietly be a contender in the Big Ten this year.
But I'm talking over time with Illinois. I'm talking roots planted year after year, 9+ wins. Bielema's there. They've got rugged offensive and defensive lines, and it's just a model or a remake of what he and Paul Chryst did at Wisconsin for all those years, and even go back to Barry Alvarez. But longevity, that's what I'm talking about with Illinois. Yeah, Iowa might have a nice season next year, and then they're going to have a coaching change at some point in the next couple of years with Ferentz leaving. And yeah, they'll have an opportunity to hire somebody of quality. I think it's an attractive place, but is it going to be one that's going to have sustained 9+ wins every year? I don't know about that, but I think Pat Fitzgerald would be an intriguing hire at Iowa. And he would have one game circled on his calendar in red, even though they wear purple.
Well, and
is he hireable yet?
I don't know.
I think he'll be on the sidelines here by 2026.
I don't know. I think it'd be intriguing. In the Big Ten, though. Do you think it's in the Big Ten?
Absolutely. Yeah.
I mean, he has been around, so his son is going to Iowa. He'll be on the roster this year. He has, he spent some time with the Iowa football program. I think last year I would see pictures of him at practice. I don't know that he was being consulted or anything like that, but
Northwestern wants no part of a trial and testimony, and they'll settle.
Yeah. I mean, in this whole discussion about the Big Ten, let's be honest. Are you following what Nebraska's model kind of is right now, where you have alignment from the top all the way down? You kind of have a plan, the way you build your roster and the way you develop your roster, and you stuck with it, that it's going to pop. I think we're going to see the same teams at the top are going to be there. That's no doubt. It's the middle teams that are going to kind of, they're interchangeable, probably from Indiana to Iowa to Illinois to Nebraska. It's the bottom teams that I think are going to start to fall off. You're going to start to see a larger separation where this league essentially is going to pick potentially 5 playoff teams every year out of a pool of 9.
Yeah, and that's how it shrunk. But I think you're going to have some folks not renting but owning time in that middle class. I think you're going to see some programs have a 3-year run, and then that 4th or 5th year they'll step back and have to climb the ladder back again, just because I think it's so deep. I mean, I anticipate Fish in Washington to be a real pain in the ass for people. I think UCLA they were one of the more talented teams last year, and they stung a few people, but UCLA could have that come out of nowhere season and just maul a lot of people. I think Northwestern's in trouble despite having a really good head coach. I like their head coach, and I know they've taken more transfers. I think Maryland's in trouble despite the talent they have in the Chesapeake region. You have a really good head coach with Jonathan Schmidt at Michigan State. He knows how to win. But can Michigan and Michigan State really be good in the same year? I mean, it seems like one program's up, one program's down in that state. I mean, it's going to be vicious to be in that 5 through 9 window and stay there. Yeah. If you can stay there, excuse me, good on you. But it's just super important for Nebraska to carve a spot and be in contention, because it's not been a good run since the old move. And we're talking about that, 12, 13, 14, 15 years plus. So it is essential. I mean, it's pretty critical from a time standpoint. And I think it's funny that Justin says I better get a heavy duty chair if Brett's moving. You better get yourself a heavy duty chair if the pig farmer's moving location. Illinois, they got to do whatever they can to keep him, because I think he's a difference maker.
Yeah,
I think he likes it there. They gave him a chance because Arkansas was not good. That situation was not good. With Jeff Long, the athletic director, and everything that went on with him losing his athletic director that hired him. He went to the NFL and kind of hid for a couple of years in New York and New England, and Illinois took a chance on him again. And the guy knows how to win in the Big Ten. But do we label that middle pack in the Big Ten? Isn't that the Iowa tier? Because Iowa is going to fall out of bed, and they're probably going to find a way to win 7 to 8 games. And then every 4th year, they're going to win 10. Mm-hmm. And they're going to be on the cusp of a division title in the Big Ten, or in this case, a chance to be in the playoff. Doesn't it feel like those middle tier teams, they're all going to win 7 to 8. And then once they're all going to trade off, one team's going to win 10, and they're going to have an Indiana magical season. Then Indiana's going to drop back, and next year they'll win 8. They'll win 7. And then that 4th year, boy, they're back there winning 10 again.
You just love that, to have that type of problem where you're, you build up to that breakthrough season. And then if you fall down, you're not hitting your head, at least. I mean, you're landing where worst case is, okay, you're back to, an 8-4, 8-5 season where you were just young, or you had an injury, but man, your consistency level was giving everybody hell. And you look at the Wisconsin and Iowa years, because those were the two teams really vying for the West. And it would be a situation where it was injury or inconsistency, but man, you knew you played them. And there'd be one year where they'd go 6-1 and 1-score games, and then here's a redshirt freshman or sophomore that's got the helm the following year, and they were a little, not quite as good the previous year with the 1-score games. But guess what? The next time it came around, they were better. They would learn from it, and that's the name of the game. How are you going to be able to operate in tight ball games? Wisconsin during their run was good. Iowa's been phenomenal at it. They found ways to do it. Illinois, I mean, hell, look at their season last year. They had 4 wins when it was a 1-score game, and that helped propel them to that 10-3 season. So I think we know what the difference is to stay in that Iowa tier or graduate to get into that top 4. It's how are you under pressure?
It's cyclical for teams too. Now, Ohio State's in a long cycle right now, and as long as they, keep Ryan Day, they probably will have long-term success. I still wonder about Michigan. How long is Sharon Moore for that job? Is he ever going to get it back to Harbaugh-like levels, or will they become a regular, not bad, 9-win team? That's not bad. But, they went through some years where, they're always talked about being a national championship contender. It took Harbaugh to come back and do it. And remember, Harbaugh was on a hot seat for a couple of years before they finally broke through. You had the Gary Moeller years. Lloyd Carr had a nice team in 97 that would not have won a national championship if they played head-to-head. But, they wandered in the wilderness for a long time. And you go back in time when Ohio State had, who was it? John Cooper was their coach, wandering in the wilderness.
10-2 with top 3 picks every year.
So
beat Michigan.
Right. Great seasons, but USC, everybody thought that was going to be a century-long juggernaut back in the days with, Leinart Bush and Pete Carroll doing whatever they did to rewrite their own rule book. But eventually they fell off the map. Bad hires.
Property. West Coast property.
Yeah. I mean, bad hires at the head coaching position and a lack of organization, especially in this area where you have to have organization. You could probably fall off pretty dramatically fairly quickly. I think Nebraska hiring Pat Stewart is maybe one of the best moves of the offseason. Yes, there's the Holgerson hire. There's the Butler elevation. They've both been around a while. But if you're entering an era in which college football is now pro football, and you have somebody who has Patriot and Eagle lineage, I'm not sure who else has done that. I know that, Stanford hired Andrew Luck, and there are GM positions all over the country that have popped up. Our friend Jose Jefferson is the GM at Florida International.
Wow.
Yeah.
A blast from the past.
Hey, you parlay the Lincoln Lightning success. Eventually it's going to come around for you, right? But, did anybody make a hire like Nebraska did, as savvy as bringing in a Pat Stewart that can not only help you out now, but set you up for a professional foundation for the future? But what I'm saying is teams will have great success, and eventually that runs out and they got to reload. And maybe that day's coming for Ohio State. I don't think they will, as long as Ryan Day, they can keep him. But hell, they might run him out if he wins 11 games and loses to Michigan next year.
Ohio State's always had the ability to upgrade whatever catastrophe they've dealt with. They went from sweater vest to Urban, and then Urban had a dude on his staff named Day, and they keep printing quarterbacks, keep getting elite talent, and despite the sky is falling and their 0 for run against Michigan, well, the consolation prize was a national championship. I mean, so they just keep making it happen. I am curious as well about, does Michigan teeter? Because Harbaugh elevated them to where they needed to be, and he's that good a coach. You can say a lot of different things about him, but the guy just finds a way to get it handled, especially on the lines of scrimmage. And his heir apparent, a lot of smoke from Ann Arbor, and I don't think that they fall out of the Iowa tier, but maybe they move back to the Iowa tier, because who do they go get if they've got to make a change after Sharon? Because I don't think he's long term
out there.
I know. Yeah, Connor's got his resume in hand. He'll take a picture of it and send it to you.
Hey, and my storyline for next year is halfway there. Ohio State wins a national championship, and Michigan beats the Buckeyes in November of 26 or 25. My God, the meltdown
4 years in a row
will be just delicious.
You know,
that's what makes that game such a great. It's the best thing going in college football right now.
Well, there's a couple of felonies now on the Ohio State ledger. One, you can't plant a flag. Two, there's a fine looming if it's a noon kickoff. So the Ohio State legislature has been busy.
Yeah, I don't see Ohio State taking a step back. I mean,
no,
they were able to, outside of the defensive coordinator, they were able to retain their staff. I mean, they got a really good coaching staff. I mean, Ryan Day knows ball. And they're developing quarterbacks, and
Hartline's incredible.
They got a lot of money. So the thing with Michigan, though, I've thought that Moore is the fall guy. Okay, they know that there's things coming, and they need that guy in place that is very grateful that he's that guy. That he's the head coach at Michigan. He's going to win some football games, but he might not be that guy to put you over the top. But he's going to take one for the team as the NCAA hammers you. And then if you have to make a move, you're like, thank you. You're a really nice guy. Now let's go get the guy that is on the level of Harbaugh.
Let me ask you this.
Who is that guy?
What would Michigan look like under Fitzgerald? I mean, that's who I go get if I'm Michigan. If I got to make a change, that's who I go look at if I'm Iowa. I know we talked about the pig farmer and how good he has been, but I
don't know that you can touch Fitzgerald.
I don't think he's not. I know there's a lot of stuff out there, but I don't think he's this evil doer and program runner. I mean, the guy was incredible for a lot of years.
What does the general public think? If you're Michigan, can you go from PR nightmare to potential PR nightmare?
But well, probably not. But the PR nightmare that Michigan's been going through is, in my opinion, a lot worse than what they claim happened at Northwestern.
Well, here's the question to me: if Cignetti can keep it rolling in 2025, if you're Michigan, do you go look at Cignetti?
How does Michigan? I'm going to play a Bill Doleman card here. How does Bill or Michigan feel about hiring an Indiana football coach? The optics part. We're going to hire from Indiana. We're going to do
he wins. You can Google him. He wins.
No, I know. and he got a nice fat raise finally at age 63 because he's the guy with the chip on his shoulder in his early 60s. It's waited his entire life to be running the program, and he's done his time under Saban. He's gotten the Julio Joneses for Bama's restart all those years ago. Then he's at James Madison, and he has always believed that I'm too good for this, but I got to prove it. So for whatever reason, it's taken him till now, probably because, you know what, he's probably hard to take for an extended period of time. And now he gets his shot. So
can we all agree, though, if that job's open, that PJ Fleck will be at the door with a resume in hand, like a Girl Scout trying to sell
and a fruit basket. I mean,
yes,
he'll bring gifts.
And he's completely unhireable at Michigan.
Why? I mean,
because remember, when you hire a guy like Deion Sanders and PJ Fleck, their pool of places where they could land is very limited because you have to turn your entire program over to them. So PJ was perfect for Minnesota.
Yeah.
They were looking for something post Kill and Clay's. They found a guy. They gave him full autonomy of the program to do the slogans and put his stamp on it. You're not walking into Notre Dame or Michigan or Nebraska, and they're going, okay, if you want to mess with the helmets and put an ear of corn on the helmets, go ahead, because I get it. You know, instead of row the boat, you're like, hey, peel the peel the corn.
Ear.
Yeah. I think I don't think that would be, I don't see Michigan doing that. But I think if, like down the road, if you look at the head coaches before Harbaugh, what are we looking at? Brady Hoke, Rich Rodriguez, Lloyd Carr. Not guys that win a press conference, but win on the field. Mm-hmm. So you maybe don't need that sexy name. Sure. You just need a good, solid football coach. But back to Cignetti, don't you guys think that this is the year that Cignetti becomes more of a jerk than this past year? Because if he wins, because that chip on his shoulder, now he's got his Mendoza quarterback makes them very interesting.
Oh, yeah.
And it's not like they lost a ton of talent. They still have some dudes that are going to be considered either in the in the top 3 in the league at the certain position groups. If he wins this year, he's going to do a victory lap. That that map, the Big Ten map. You're going to see Cignetti running around. Indiana he'll do a victory lap around the map of the Big Ten if they have another really good year.
Is it in his contract that he has to appear in the Big Ten commercial from West Coast to East Coast where
and here's
CG'd in there?
Well, a lot of people have like just blown off Indiana. Hey, they had the 1 year. It was kind of, he could bring in all those guys and it was a first year bump and nobody knew who they were. You don't see a lot of people talking about them, but now the NFL guys are starting to talk about Mendoza at quarterback. Mm-hmm. They've got that home game against Illinois, the same weekend Nebraska, Michigan play. Man, if Indiana starts to stack success, I think he's a scary guy.
Well, and you look at what they have.
He's Bo Pelini with more breakthrough success.
You talk Mendoza. It's at least a comparable quarterback, if not a better quarterback. They've, by all accounts, improved their offensive line, which is probably the weakest point in their team last year. Running back's a question mark. They got the one wide receiver back. I can't remember his name that played well for them last year. He was like their number 2 guy last year. He's coming back. And then
they got a number second team all Big Ten wideout back.
Yeah, and then they their front seven's a bit of a question mark, but if they put up points like they did last year, their defense, I think they could put up points better with a better offensive line because they got Coogan from Notre Dame in to shore up a guard spot. They brought in a tackle as well. Mendoza at quarterback.
Surratt.
Yes, Surratt, the wide receiver. He's back.
Well, I like playing the old head coach bingo what if game with the spots that may open up, the spots that where you take from and hire. And the bottom line is you've just got a ton of dudes in the Big Ten you got to match wits with across the sideline every Saturday.
And what's really interesting now is in the era of SEC and Big Ten dominance, you're going to have some coaches going from ACC up to Big Ten, but you're not going to have Big Ten and SEC coaches going to ACC like you saw with Braum. I don't think you're going to see a Braum situation again where Braum goes off to the ACC or someone goes off to the Big 12. It's going to be a lot of Michigan and Ohio State are going to look within the Big Ten. They're going to look at the SEC for their hires if they do have to make hires. And I'm just using those teams as examples.
Sure.
But that could make the coaching carousel interesting moving forward.
Man. Well, and let's be honest, how stable's the North Carolina job? Because that's a pretty coveted gig. Right now, you've got a head coach there, but is he one and done? And that's something that looms. So I don't know.
I bet you, as Bill would say, PJ Fleck will show up with resume.
He'll show up in a blue sport coat.
That's the one guy that I think would leave the Big Ten to go to the ACC or the Big 12. He wants the hell out of Minneapolis.
Would you guys be excited if PJ Fleck wasn't in the Big Ten? From the Nebraska perspective.
I think he's a wonderful barometer. If your team can beat him, then you are fundamentally sound. You've got good in-game management, and you're tough as nails. Because those are the three things his teams somehow do against the big dogs or against teams that they're slightly underdogged, and they just find a way. And that is how you are successful in the Big Ten. Doesn't matter how it looks. It just matters how you finish. And he's done that.
I don't think you guys are UFC fans, but to compare PJ Fleck in Minnesota to the UFC, there's in almost every single weight class in the UFC, there's your gatekeeper fighter, which is usually a guy that at one point in time had championship aspirations, either got the belt and lost it quickly or never quite got there, and is now sitting somewhere between 4 and 7 in the weight class rankings. And what they have that guy do is almost exclusively, he's going to go off and fight the young up-and-comer who wants to get up into championship discussions. And it's a great barometer for the UFC, because if you can beat that veteran, that gatekeeper type, you're ready for your championship shot. If you can't beat him, it's right back to work. You got to keep on working to get your way back up. That's Minnesota. If you can beat Minnesota, you're probably a good team that is going to be in contention, at least for a college football playoff. If you can't beat Minnesota, you're not there. That's what PJ Fleck in Minnesota is to me, at least over the past couple of years. It's that gatekeeper. If you can beat Minnesota, you can go compete in the Big Ten. If you can't, you need some work to do.
No, he's done a hell of a job there, but there is a caricature to the whole show. You know, the whole roll the boat thing was unique when he was Western Michigan. Yeah. And it was an interesting story, and it just continues to play. And I think that just I'm kind of over that. I'm ready for him to get a new gig, because we talk about him all the time. He's always talked about for Florida, USC, whatever job is open.
UCLA last offseason, UCLA.
He would kill it out there.
It's like, dude, appreciate the job you're doing, you know.
His agent is
buried. He's absolutely buried in a pro town.
Do you think every single offseason, PJ Fleck's agent goes, "Oh God, we got another email from PJ. What job is open now?"
He's done a great job. There's no question. And I mentioned this maybe yesterday or earlier. It's mystifying to me that it is the barometer for Nebraska to make that move up is you got to get over Minnesota. That it has been so lopsided. It just, to me, that's mystifying. That Nebraska's hurdle, first real big hurdle in the Big Ten, is getting past Minnesota. At worst, it ought to be a 50-50 proposition, and it's not.
That's the sign of sustainability is can you start beating Minnesota?
Right. So. I just don't get that.
I mean, he wins. Yeah, he's quirky. You know, I don't think they have, you know, the financial support to keep coordinators and coaches. Doesn't appear to be that strong. Or you work for PJ for a couple of years and then it's time to move on. You know, you see what he goes through coordinators. But with that said, he still wins. And the other part of it is he still sends guys. He still sends guys to the NFL. I mean, what do they got? 6 straight years they've had a first or second round pick.
Yeah. And it's, you know, you look at him, his offensive tackle draft pick. I mean, the guy was a 3-star kind of obscure dude. And, you know, Fleck has lost a lot of the Minnesota State Player of the Years. They've either found their way to Nebraska or Wisconsin. And the guy that he has brought in instead of those Minnesota State Players of the Year have been incredible. They ran for 1,000 yards, or they've been an NFL draft pick on one of the lines of scrimmage. So,
well, he'll have. I mean, he's going to have probably the best running back and best safety in the Big Ten this year.
The safeties, that kid's incredible. Fellas, going to wind it down with the Average Joe Sports Show. Little coaching talk in the Big Ten. Husker Softball gets going. Big Red Baseball in Omaha next week. That's Bill Doleman, Gary Sharp, Elijah Herbel, Chris Schmidt with the Average Joe Sports Show. Like and subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, iTunes. Catch Gary on 1620, 6 to 10 weekdays with the Gary and Matt Show. Find us on the Average Joe's on the Average Joe Network and KFOR 4 to 6 in the afternoon. Bill Doleman still has a spot for your business name under his Twitter handle. And any inquiries, all good, bad, or love financially, can be sent to the Average Joe's, the AJ Sports Show, the AJ Sports Show, 2 S's at gmail.com.
Look how relieved Bill looks. Doesn't Bill look a lot younger today? School's over.
I still got a grade, but yeah.
I'm gonna have to break you out after golf and give you get you an old fashioned, Bill.
How would you grade this year's class?
this year's class of
graduates, because there've been a couple of bangers the last couple of years of very talented kids. Let's be honest. Let's grade the graduating class that you oversaw.
Yeah, we had a couple of rock stars in our class, as you well know. Do I have anybody like that? Well, of course, they're all A's. They're all A's this year. I watched graduation yesterday at the university and was kind of surprised by some of them that did walk across the stage, but I digress and I joke. Good class, great class of kids. It's really kind of my first one, actually.
And Bill, I'll say hat tip to you. I was watching some of the BTN Plus broadcasts with the Nebraska Purdue series this weekend, and I don't want to pile on anybody, but I thought the Nebraska BTN Plus broadcast with the student broadcasters this year all along were top notch. And you hear the difference whenever you hear other schools in the Big Ten, what they do with BTN Plus. So a hat tip to you developing some future broadcasters. You've done a fantastic job.
Thank you very much. And thank you for hiring some of them, both of you.
Bill walks in. Old Wild Bill's got that look in his eye. It's time for critique session.
I send them off with the same thing I used to tell you, and when you would go off to your broadcasts and tried to nurture you and left you with those special words. Don't screw it up.
Yeah, and way to edit for our friends. The stern look. Don't bleep it up. So
great class of the College of Journalism and Mass Communications for May of 2025, and proud of those who are out there already doing something great. Connor Clark, Matt McMaster, Grant Hansen. Yep, some good ones. Justice Rohde in the pipeline does a good job, and shout out Danny Burke, the pride of Chicago. That's great group of dudes. Everyone have a good rest of your Sunday. We'll be back at you next time here with the Average Joe Sports Show.